G'day guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Tim, and on today's episode we're taking a look at Bitcoin, and we're also taking a look at the Chinese stock exchange and the US stock exchanges to see whether there are any clues about what might happen next. Okay, now before we get stuck into the video, I'd like to address my perma-bear status. Now in the comments section, there have been many friendly individuals, somewhat grammar challenged individuals, but anyhow, they have been individuals expressing their opinions of me being a perma-bear. And right now, the theories of Bitcoin crashing and going further at the moment have been invalidated, and we're showing a lot of strength. So right now, you may be surprised that I am cautiously bullish, and there's very good potential that Bitcoin and crypto increase from this point forward. And that is one of the things I'll be keeping a close eye on. There are a couple macro indicators, particularly with China and the US, that we need to keep a close eye on. And I want to draw your attention to those straight away. Well, what we're looking at here is the Hang Seng Index. And you can see here, this is the point when we had the 2020 March crash. And the Hang Seng increased from that point, very similar to all the other exchanges in the world. Now let's have a look at the Chinese stock exchange. This is the Hang Seng Index. Now the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the March 2020 crash, right down here at this point here. Now from that point, it did increase by about 43%, and it peaked right here on the 16th of February, 2021. A time when all the markets, including crypto, were very, very bullish. But since then, the Hang Seng has been in a downtrend. Okay, now if we take a look at the RSI, we can see the RSI is also in a downtrend. But look at this. At this point here, this recent rally has showed some strength. Now we're on a daily chart here. This is the daily RSI. And you can see we came back, we kind of retested this trend line, and now it's shot off again. So that, to me, that's a very promising sign, because if China continued to crash down, it's not very far away from the March 2020 lows. We're about 20% away from those levels at the moment. Now, if China was to continue to crash down, it's very likely that it would cause pressure on the US stock exchange. So let's have a look and see what the S&P 500, the USA, is doing at the moment. Here we had the crash right down here, the March 2020 crash, and it has increased by over 100%. So the US stock exchange has been a lot stronger than China over the past year and a half. But check this out, and this is the little scary thing right now. We are now coming up to a potential double top. If we cannot break these highs, then it's possible that the S&P 500 drops below this point here, and it's most likely going to drop below this neckline. Now that doesn't have to happen, and the fact that when we looked at the Hang Seng Index, it is showing a bit of extra strength on the daily chart over the last couple of days. That's very promising. And on the S&P 500, we can see there's a very similar downtrending RSI on the daily, and right now we are right on it. So we'll have to pay very close attention over the next couple of days, particularly today, which is Friday, the 22nd of October. If we manage to break this previous all-time high and close above it, and we also have a stronger RSI, it's a very promising sign for the world markets. Now, if we get rejected at this point here and come down, then that's a very scary sign for the world markets, and it may not be good for crypto in the shorter term. Anything can still happen. I feel we're right on that critical point right now, a potential double top with the S&P 500 and a potential continued downtrend for the Hang Seng Index. But if we have reached the bottom here and we are moving our way up and we do break the previous all-time high, then that is going to be very, very promising for Bitcoin and crypto. So let's take a look at the current Bitcoin chart and speculate what may happen next. So you can see I've got a couple trend lines here that I've drawn in that have these areas of support and resistance. And you can see they're all in somewhat of an upward slant here. Now, this area here is something I'm keeping a very close eye on, because you can see we started at the bottom of this trend line, we went right to the top of this one, and then we retraced down to the bottom of it again and came very close to the 50-day moving average. So right now we've followed a very similar pattern. We've started at the bottom of the trend line. We've come up to this point, we've retraced, and now we've gone to the top of this trend line here. Now we've had one big red candle. Now we could continue to go up from here, but another likely scenario is that we come back and retest this trend line again. So it was resistance at this point. We broke that resistance, and it's very likely that we come back and test that resistance. Maybe something similar happens again here, and we come back down to somewhere in this region. And as you can see, it might be higher than the previous peak. And then that could give us the next impetus to go up again and break the previous all-time high more convincingly. So that's a possibility. Another possibility is that we keep increasing from here. And of course, the most bearish possibility is that we break that trend line and continue going down. Now, what I'm keeping a close eye on is this trend line and also this orange line, which is the 50-day moving average, which is going up to this point here. You can see that we often bounce off the 50-day moving average when things are bullish. So that is where I would potentially expect to see Bitcoin retrace to over the next coming days, especially if the S&P 500 finds some resistance at this little point here, at this double top. If it finds resistance, we might have a few days of a downtrend, and then hopefully for Bitcoin and crypto, it then rebounds off and continues higher again. And finally, one last thing we can look at here is the total market cap for crypto. You can see we broke the all-time high, the previous all-time high. Now, maybe what happens next, we consolidate somewhere up here before shooting up again. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But you'll notice there is a downtrend on the RSI. So this currently is a bearish divergence. Until we break this point, this is something to keep an eye on as well. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. As I said before, I'm cautiously bullish. There are some bearish divergences to keep an eye on. There is the Hang Seng Index and the S&P 500 to keep an eye on. They're all at critical levels at the moment. So let's see how things play out the next couple of days. I hope you enjoyed that content. You can follow me on Twitter at TechnicalTimCR1. And until next time, I'm Tim, and cheers.